a place she's grooving, letting music fill her soul. Nobody knows why she dances alone. No, nobody knows what she's running from. You can ask her to dance if you wanna, but you smile and just say no. Nobody knows why she dances alone. There's a million things that it could be, from broken hearts to broken dreams, or getting tired of being left out one more time. To tell you the truth, your guess is as good as mine. Nobody knows why she dances alone. No, nobody knows. Is there something at home? Nobody knows why she dances alone. No, nobody knows what she's running from. You can ask her to dance if you want, but you smile and just say no. Nobody knows why she dances alone. Nobody knows why she dances alone. Said nobody knows.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our pre-coverage of the joint press conference being given by President Trump today at the White House. He is giving it with the Colombian president, Juan Manuel Santos. I think I got that name right. Let me make sure. Why not make sure and see I got it right? Colombian president. Did I get it right? Yes, I did. Hey, so he's going to give this press conference, joint press conference. It's going to be at 3:45 Eastern Time. It's 3:20 right now. And it will be the first time President Trump has addressed the press and publicly commented on video since the announcement of the special counsel, the naming of the special counsel last night to take over the investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 election. So don't know if he'll say anything about that. Usually the way these press conferences go is President Trump will say something for a couple minutes, and then President Santos will say something for a couple minutes, and then they'll open up the floor to questions, and they'll probably take, usually it's like 5 or 6 reporters get to ask questions, and they ask one question for each of them. So I have to imagine someone will ask something about the special counsel appointment. Not sure how much President Trump will answer that, how much he'll go into detail. We'll see, though. We'll keep an eye on that. And, you might have noticed there's a special new background. I can see it on the monitor right here. Special background behind us. It's we thought it was nice. And I'm sorry? Jake? I guess people are giving positive feedback. So I think it's probably New York or some New York mashup because I believe that's the Empire State Building. We're not in New York right now. So think of it more as like general city background. And also it's sunset. Well, it's kind of sunset and it's not really sunset right now on the East Coast. But we kind of liked it. We figured we'd run with it. Also, some people might be watching this later on in the day. A lot of people, we have more people watch later on than watch when we go live. So it'll seem maybe time appropriate to them. But we thought it might be nice to get some variety. We're working on getting a little motion back there at some point. But for now, we tried this, something a little different. And so we're going to bring you, as soon as that press conference starts, Jake will take us live to the press conference. Then we'll come back after, do a little post show for it. But there is some news today we wanted to talk about, different news events that are going on. So one thing I wanted to bring up was reportedly, I saw both CNN and MSNBC reporting that Joe Lieberman is the front runner for the FBI director position. So that came open when President Trump fired James Comey last week. And they've been interviewing a number of people in the White House for this position. But supposedly Joe Lieberman is the front runner. Joe Lieberman was a senator, I want to say, for about 22 years or so, and from Connecticut. He was a Democrat, except at a certain point, I don't know if this is the last time he was elected, I think it was, where he didn't win the Democratic primary, so he ran under his own party, and he won, and he technically was an independent, but he still basically sided with the Democrats. If you want to read more about the details, I know the Wikipedia page has a bunch of stuff on this. But also, he did endorse John McCain, if I remember this right. So, Joe Lieberman is seen as someone who Democrats can get behind, but also someone who's not, doctrinaire Democrat. And, as to what the question comes up, if Joe Lieberman is the front runner, if he's going to be named the FBI director, what would the thinking be in the Trump administration about this? Well, they might want someone who both sides can get along with, because FBI director... Up now. Thank you. That's so good, Jake. See, now I can see it with the monitor here. It's on your screen. So, and I think that might be a Jake, is that a Politico story? It might be reported in Politico as well. I think it is a Politico story. So, what's the thinking here by the administration? You want, in theory, it's nice to have an FBI director who both parties get along with, because they're appointed for 10 years, and, you might very well have a Democratic president and a Republican president both having the same FBI director. Also, if it is Joe Lieberman, is that some kind of signal the administration is sending out that, they want to work more with the left, or they get, maybe is like, are they saying something like, we get your concerns that, we get that some of you have said that firing Comey could be interpreted as like trying to derail the Russia investigation. So we're going to appoint someone who's not like a close personal friend of Donald Trump and not a diehard Republican to signal to you that we're not, by changing FBI directors, trying to derail the Russia investigation. I could see that kind of thinking going on. So in addition to hiring somebody they think can do the job well, I'm guessing there are political considerations going on here, and that could be a reason for Joe Lieberman being hired. Interesting thing I was reading earlier, that FBI directors are normally not politicians. They're people with law enforcement background. So it would be interesting if Joe Lieberman was named, because he's a politician and not a career law enforcement person. So we'll see. Now, these reports could be wrong. You never know. But I've also seen reports that this is supposed to be happening soon. Supposed to be the person is supposed to be named soon. So we'll keep an eye out for that. If you have any thoughts on this, let us know. Right, you can see my address is on the screen. You can reach out at Lookner on Twitter, at LOOKNER. Happy to read your comment on the air. Send in a comment about this. We'd like to hear your thoughts on the news that supposedly Joe Lieberman's going to be named FBI director. You can also email me at steve.lookner@rsbn.tv. I'm checking right now to see my messages. Sightless Seer asks, what are your thoughts on the NSTAC conference that happened today and the documents on cybersecurity report? I know nothing about either of these things. I've been reading the news this morning, but I have not read about either of these things, so I have no thoughts on them whatsoever. I should read about them, and I should get some thoughts about them. I will put that on my to-do list for the afternoon. But I was reading about some other stuff this morning. Also, we were getting some stuff on the air here this morning. So thank you for writing and reminding me to look at that Sightless Seer. Let me just call up the rest of my Twitter comments and make sure. Ket King writes in, and Ket King says, I'm worried. Trump is saying the top person for the FBI director position is Lieberman. Please tell me this is a chess move. So what are you worried about exactly, Kek? I'd like to know. Feel free to write in and clarify. This is a comment. I had retweeted Jennifer Jacobs from Politico, her tweet from an hour ago that Joe Lieberman was the top choice to lead the FBI. And I'm going to read JR replied to me, I like that Trump relies on older leaders to guide his ship. They have nothing to prove beside they've already accomplished themselves. They have nothing to prove because they're already accomplished themselves. So that's an interesting point about hiring somebody older to lead the FBI. It's not that somebody who's not trying to make their career, or somebody not trying to do something after. Somebody, Joe Lieberman is 75. So presumably it's somebody who's just focused on doing the best job they can. Sightless Seer writes, I spam my Twitter with video of the conference and a few NSTAC DHS documents if interested. I still don't know what this is, Sightless Seer, but feel free to send me whatever documents you'd like. I'd be happy to look at them. Time check, 3:28 p.m. At 3:45 p.m., we're going to have President Trump's joint news conference with the President of Colombia from the White House. Will he be asked all questions about the Russia stuff and the special counsel stuff? Or will they ask about some other stuff? Well, I could see it where they call on the Colombian journalists, and the Colombian journalists ask the question of President Trump, specifically about Colombia, and then all the American journalists ask about General Flynn and the General Flynn and the Russia and the special counsel. Speaking of General Flynn, another story that we haven't talked about that was reported on this morning was actually the New York Times came out with a story yesterday saying that General Flynn told the White House that he was being investigated by the Justice Department, I believe, because of his lobbying activities. And he told them this before they hired him as National Security Advisor. So some people think that's problematic. I mean, one way you might think it's problematic is if you think, well, they shouldn't have hired him if he was being investigated. Now, maybe they heard General Flynn's side of the story. General Flynn might have said something like, look, they're investigating me for my lobbying because I was working for this Turkish company, but I didn't do anything wrong. And maybe General Flynn convinced them this investigation wasn't going to go anywhere, and they still thought he was the best for the job, and they hired him anyway. Also, maybe General Flynn said they're investigating me, but he wasn't totally forthcoming about what the investigation was about and what actually he had been involved with. That's a possibility. One possibility, I thought of another possibility here, is, another thing people might be worried about is whether, I'd have to go back and listen to specific things people from the administration, like Vice President Pence and other people said, but did anybody from the administration after General Flynn was fired say, we didn't know he was being investigated? There we go. Thank you, Jake. So did anyone... Jake, it's scrolling, but it's just so you know, Jake, I can see the scrolling, which might be okay with you. On my screen, Jake, I'm seeing pictures, the pictures at the bottom of the article. Oh, you're getting the article up. Thank you, Jake. Okay, I see what you're doing now. So General Flynn... he told the administration before he was hired, hey, I'm getting investigated by the Justice Department, did anyone from the administration come out after that and said, hey, we never knew he was being investigated. I need to go back and check. I don't have all their quotes with me here. So lots of different ways you could interpret this information as problematic or not, and in different degrees. But it's a story that's out there. Let me know if you have any thoughts on it. Would love to hear your comments. At Lookner on Twitter, or email me, steve.lookner@rspn.tv. Trumpolution writes, Gowdy said, hi Steve, do you think Trey Gowdy and Trump have done a masterful job of making him the shoo-in at the last moment? Gowdy said he thought the nation could do better than him. He's playing the humble card. Could this be an incredibly clever setup? I hope. Trumpolution, I saw a report yesterday that said Trey Gowdy had pulled himself out of the running for FBI director. I have a hard time thinking this is like that it's under wraps. I'm not saying it's impossible, but to me, it doesn't really do Trey Gowdy a lot of good to come out and say, I'm not in the running for this job, and then get nominated for the job. Then it seems like maybe he was a little dishonest. So I don't know. I don't think it'll be Gowdy now just because he publicly said he was out of the running for the job. But hey, if you're a Trey Gowdy fan, you can always have hope until the person is actually named. Thanks for writing in, Trumpolution. GSB.UK says, hey, Steve, you're very naive. Whatever he does, President Trump, he will never be able to appease the immoral Democrats. Just because Lieberman is older only means he's been corrupt for longer. So GSB.UK, it sounds like you're not a fan here. I will say this, though, GSB.UK, I think when President Trump decides who's going to be the FBI director, perhaps part of him wants someone who's more Republican in there. But I do think political considerations are important. President Trump, might think this is a sensitive time, it's a sensitive pick, and if I pick somebody who the left isn't okay with, like if I pick Chris Christie or Rudy Giuliani or somebody, that might get in the way of me passing legislation further. So, it's possible that President Trump's taking a long-term view here, and that Joe Lieberman is not the ideal pick in his world for FBI director, but he thinks there are benefits long-term to having Joe Lieberman as this pick, which might help President Trump get his agenda passed, for example. So I'm just saying, if President Trump picks Joe Lieberman, and if Joe Lieberman isn't his ideal pick, I'm guessing President Trump thinks there are benefits down the road to pick Joe Lieberman now. And was just speculating about what those were. Thanks, GSB.UK. Always appreciate you writing in. Keck King says, I'm worried about Joe Lieberman being a deep state operative and him finishing what Comey started, among other bad things. I have no information on any kind of deep state things going on, but presumably anybody who President Trump hires, they're going to vet, and he, had him in for an interview. So, remember, President Trump is the one making this call. So I'm guessing President Trump will do whatever he thinks needs to be done to convince him that whoever he picks is the right person for the job. Doesn't mean you're not allowed to worry, Cat King. Just saying that's my thought. Trumpolution says, I am. So you are still holding out hope for Trey Gowdy. Well, Trumpolution, the person has not been named yet. There was some other news I wanted to talk about. So we have about 10 minutes now until the President-Trump joint press conference with the President of President of Colombia. And we are going to be back with the post show after. So you can watch the press conference right here. Afterwards, stick around, come back, join us for the post show. We'll talk about the press conference. I'm seeing this. Okay, so Deputy Attorney General Rosenstein is briefing senators today, and I think on the stuff about the FBI and the hiring the special counsel, naming the special counsel and all that stuff. And BNO News just sent out a minute ago a tweet that says, Deputy Attorney General Rosenstein told senators he knew before he wrote his memo that FBI Director Comey would be fired, according to Senator McCaskill. So Claire McCaskill says that Deputy Attorney General Rosenstein told senators today that he knew before he wrote his memo that FBI Director Comey would be fired. So if you remember back when FBI Director Comey was originally fired, the original line from the White House was that the firing was because of the Rosenstein memo and because of the Rosenstein and Attorney General Sessions letters. But then President Trump, like the next day, came out and said, no, I was going to fire him. I was thinking about firing him anyway, or I was going to fire him anyway. So this story, if it's true that Deputy Attorney General Rosenstein said that he knew before he wrote his memo that FBI Director Comey would be fired, that would go against the original story that the firing was because of the letters to President Trump from the Attorney General and Deputy Attorney General, but it would not go against President Trump's story after. Now, also, I've heard these rumblings that Deputy Attorney General Rosenstein was upset because he was originally blamed by some for the firing, and he thought that was unfair. So if he did say this today, I could see this as part of his effort to clear his name from being the one responsible for the firing. I saw another report about something President Trump had said. Let's see if I can find this. I'm going through here. I saw a report about 15 minutes ago that President Trump said something. Well, first of all, President Trump said, that's not relevant here. President Trump said something about the special counsel. I saw that report before, and I'm trying to figure out where is it. See if that tweet is still posted anywhere. I'm going back a little more. And I remember I didn't see, I was like, they were reporting this on the on TV somewhere, and I also saw a tweet about it, but I was like, where is that from? And I didn't have a firm answer on where that's from. By the way, another story happening today. Brazil's president said he won't resign. Brazil's president is wrapped up right now in a bribery scandal, and some new information came out this morning where I guess somebody who runs a company that's under investigation in Brazil for bribery said they had tapes of the secret tapes they had made of the Brazilian president condoning bribes and asking for more bribes. And the stock market in Brazil went down 10% this morning, which immediately stopped the stock market. They have automatic stops if something like that happens. But the Brazilian president said, I will not resign. So I don't know, maybe that quote I saw from Donald Trump about the special counsel thing was removed. Oh, here we go. All right. This is a tweet from Savannah Guthrie. I found it. Savannah Guthrie tweeted this out. She said she saw somewhere that Trump said, I believe the special counsel hurts our country terribly because it shows we're a divided, mixed up, not unified country. Now, I don't even know where she got this. And also, I don't even know if this is current. See, she posted this, but I'm just reading it to you because it got retweeted by some other people, and I know nothing about it, though. Oh, also, Jason Chaffetz, chairman of the House Oversight Committee. He resigned from Congress today. His resignation is effective June 30th. And there were also reports that he is going to work at Fox News. I saw some reports about this morning. And I was wondering, I tweeted out about this, is it possible that, like, when Fox lost O'Reilly, they made him some big offer and he was just like, I wouldn't mind being on Fox News and making a lot of money and having this platform, especially maybe if he's thinking about running for governor one day. Maybe he thought it would be like helpful to him to be on Fox News for a while. So my question is just how long in advance does this Fox News thing, if he's going to work there in some capacity, how long ago did he know this, and did this have anything to do with him resigning from Congress? No idea. Just a thought. Justice for Seth writes in, Rosenstein said that Comey basically botched the Clinton investigation. So unless he appoints a special prosecutor to investigation, he's just setting Trump up. I'm a little confused here. I'm trying to get through. I'm trying to follow your reasoning, Seth. Justice for Seth. Rosenstein said that Comey basically botched a special investigation. Right, I agree he said that. And then you say, so unless he appoints a special prosecutor to the investigation, he's just setting Trump up. So I'm a little confused because when Rosenstein appointed a special prosecutor, a special counsel they call it, to conduct the Russia investigation, what he was doing is, in essence, taking the Justice Department out of it. Because normally, Rosenstein would have been the one, he would, I mean, the FBI would have been doing the investigation, but Rosenstein would have been technically overseeing the FBI investigation. So I think maybe you're saying something like, Justice for Seth, something like, look, no matter who gets appointed to the FBI, that person couldn't be trusted to do a fair investigation. So Rosenstein is going to have a special counsel do it because he thinks it would be more fair to President Trump. Now, I'm not sure that's what you're saying. Now, if you say that, the thing is, though, that whoever President Trump appoints to the FBI head would, in theory, be in control of the investigation, and President Trump appointed that person. So it's possible, Justice for Seth, I'm just not understanding your point, which is, believe me, very possible, and it might very well be my fault. So feel free to write back and clarify, Justice for Seth. We have about 3 minutes left until the joint press conference with President Trump and the President of Colombia is going to start. If it starts on time, we will go right to that when it starts. I'll carry it live for you and then come back here for the post show. So stick around. Also, feel free to follow Right Side Broadcasting on Twitter at RSB Network. And thank you to Jacob Seals for producing today. You can follow Jacob at JacobRSBN Music. And I want to say thank you to the moderators moderating today, as usual, the chats at both YouTube and RSBN.TV. Much appreciated. Andrew Sova says, what do you think of David Clark announcing he'd be joining Donald Trump's cabinet? So he did not announce he was joining the cabinet, but he did announce he was getting hired from some Homeland Security position. I believe it was some sort of outreach position at the Department of Homeland Security. Now, the Department of Homeland Security has not confirmed this yet. David Clark said he was accepting this offer, but it hasn't been confirmed. What do I think of that? I did read some stuff this morning talking about that this was an outreach position, and that if it's an outreach position, David Clark is somebody who strongly supports President Trump, and obviously doesn't get a lot of people on the left are not fans of his. If it's an outreach position involving outreach to some people on the left, that could be an issue. Now, I have to read more about this position. So a thought I have is, I get rewarding David Clark because he was a very, very big supporter of President Trump throughout his campaign. And he was somebody who did a lot of work for President Trump, a lot of speaking, very powerful public speaker. So, I certainly think it's reasonable for President Trump to want to find a position for David Clark, Sheriff Clark, as to whether this is a good position for him. I need to know more about the position, but also, it's possible, let's say it's an outreach position. If David Clark did indeed get offered this job, did they have some meeting with David Clark where they said, hey, we want to offer you this, but you got to be ready to work with people on the left? And maybe he's like, I'm totally cool with that. So, in terms of what I think about this, I'm open to him taking the position. I hope if it's an outreach position that I'm assuming and hoping, if it is an outreach position, that he is ready to do good outreach with whoever he has to reach out to. But has not been confirmed yet from the Homeland Security Department, by the way. Sorry. Let's see. Thank you, Andrew, for writing in. Keck, Common Sense, writes in. Common Sense says, did you hear Lindsey Graham say on Fox News that they are looking into Hillary's emails? I did not hear that. Feel free to send me a link. Are you saying the special counsel is going to be looking into Hillary's emails? Justice for Seth says he needs to appoint. You think that Rosenstein needed to appoint a special prosecutor to the Clinton? Oh, I'm sorry. You say he needs to appoint a special prosecutor to the Clinton case. So you think that Rosenstein should do that next. Thanks for writing in, Justice for Seth. Right now it is 3:45. That's the scheduled start time for President Trump's joint press conference. We'll bring it to you live whenever it starts. Might start a little late. This happens. President Trump going away on a big trip tomorrow for a couple weeks, I think. That's his whole trip where he's going to Saudi Arabia, going to Israel, and going to the Vatican. We will try to bring you as much as we can of footage from that trip. Trumpolution writes in, did you catch this? And you say, it's critical to remember this line, the last line on the Rosenstein memo, supporting a special counsel, and other related matters, super important. So, I want to read this Rosenstein statement again, because I read it last night when we were on the air about this, and it didn't seem to me like to be anything too sweeping, but let me see if I can find it again. If I can't, I can't. Oh, okay. Thank you, Jake. I'll get to that in a second. I want to answer this question first. Hold on one second. Rosenstein. Why did it make Rosenstein into 2 words? That's not what I wanted. Let's see. Can I find it? I'm looking for it quickly. You'd think if you put in Rosenstein announcement, it would come up. But it didn't. Jake, I heard something about donation, but you weren't in my ear.
Tuesday's Gone just donated $100 in Super Chat.
We just got a donation in the chat room from Tuesday's Gone for $100. That's incredibly nice of you, Tuesday's Gone. Tuesday Gone, I know you. Tuesday's Gone, I know you've donated before, so that's really cool of you. For those of you who don't know, maybe some new viewers out there, we are viewer supported here at Right Side Broadcasting. We rely on your support to stay on the air. We couldn't stay on the air and give you alternate coverage to the mainstream media. We couldn't do that without your support. If you'd like to donate, you can go to rsbn.tv/donate. Go there, rsbn.tv/donate. Or if you're watching on YouTube, click on the $ at the bottom of the chat room like Tuesday's Gone did. You can donate that way. Thank you again, Tuesday's Gone. Jake, by the way, we're on Facebook today, yes or no? So hello to everybody watching on Facebook, and if you're on Facebook, feel free to share this video. We love when you share. It lets more people know about Right Side Broadcasting. Okay, so I don't have it with me here. In terms of Trumpolution, the announcement by special counsel. So what the special counsel is going to be investigating is any kind of possible collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia over the election, and just in more generally any kind of interference by Russia in the election. And with this special counsel, related matters can come up. So from what I had heard, the special counsel was given wide leeway to investigate other matters related to this. Now, certainly a matter that would be seen as related to this interference could possibly be President Trump asking James Comey in the Oval Office, hey, could you not investigate General Flynn? Could you? But as to whether Hillary's emails come up, I don't know if that'll be considered relevant. I can't say for sure. But on the face of it, this is not to say that Hillary's emails should or should not be investigated, period. But should they be investigated as part of an investigation into Russian interference in the election? I'm not sure about that, so we'll find out eventually whether they were investigated. But as of now, I don't see it as obvious right now that they will be investigated as part of this special counsel's investigation. I forgot to check my email. I totally forgot. Let me open that up. Anytime now, by the way, we will start covering the joint press conference at the White House with President Trump and the President of Colombia. It's going to start anytime now. I got a message from Greg Jackson. Greg Jackson writes, subject, I would want Trump to answer this question. And the message is, from some news accounts, John DeStefano is holding up Trump supporting workers until the 120 days expires, which will result in roughly 10% being in support of Trump policies. The vast majority would be Obama holdovers as a result. Therefore, will Trump reassign these people and put his own people in? So you're saying you saw some story about John DeStefano. I'm a little confused as to what the story is. Let me see if I can find it somewhere. Under news. John DeStefano is, I see a story saying this Beltway insider is in charge of hiring for the Trump administration. but I'm not seeing a more recent story about. Is there a specific story you're looking at, Greg? I would love to have a link so I could see it, because I'm not sure which story you're referring to here. So I can't really comment intelligently on it. Feel free to send another message, though, Greg. Dean. Dejan Ribic wrote in, "Hey, Steve, here's what Trump said about the special counsel." It's a CNBC story. Thank you, Dean. Thank you, Dejan, for this link. It's a CNBC story that came out 32 minutes ago, and it says, Trump says appointment of special counsel hurts our country terribly. And the quote is, "I believe it hurts our country terribly because it shows we're divided, mixed up, not unified country. And we have very important things to be doing right now, whether it's trade deals, whether it's military, whether it's stopping nuclear, all of the things we discussed today. And I think this shows a very divided country." And he made these comments during a lunch with reporters and TV anchors. And he also said of the special counsel, "It also happens to be a pure excuse for the Democrats having lost an election that they should have easily won because of the Electoral College being slanted so much their way. That's all this is. I think it shows division, and it shows that we're not together as a country. And I think it's a very, very negative thing. And hopefully this can go quickly, because we have to show unity if we're going to do great things with respect to the rest of the world." Let's see here. Oh, cool. And Jacob, could they hear you say that? Okay. So Jacob just let me know that the feed is up now. They haven't started the press conference. So as soon as the press conference starts with President Trump and the president of Colombia, we will go right to it. Should be in a couple minutes right now. So thank you, Dejan, for sending in this link to the CNBC story about President Trump talking about the special counsel. He had some not very praiseworthy things to say about naming a special counsel. Wonder if he'll repeat these remarks in the press conference today. I'm guessing somebody actually might ask about these remarks. They might say, "Hey, we saw this report that you said this a half an hour ago. Do you stand by those remarks?" So we will wait and see very soon. Okay, so I know we had a question about the Syria story. I'll get to that in a second if I have time. But also want to say, we do this. We get questions sometimes as to why we do the pre and post shows. And, first of all, I guess one thing is we like to cover news in a little more kind of less like soundbitey way. And we like to be able to discuss the news at length a little bit and talk about these events and talk about some of the things that are going to be asked about in the events. But also a big part of this is getting your feedback. We consider the audience part of the network here. It's not just like us saying stuff at you. We want to have a dialogue with you, and we like to hear what you have to say and give you guys a voice. So, what we like to do here on the pre-show and the post-show, and also when we cover the Sean Spicer briefings, and events more generally, is we like to hear what you Americans, and non-Americans, we have people watching from other countries, but citizens of the world, we like to hear what you have to say on these issues, because we don't, you don't get that on the mainstream media. We have talking heads saying what they think, and a lot of them think very similar things, and we really like to hear what you think. And so a big part of what we do on the pre-shows and the post-shows is let you guys comment and let you guys ask questions and have a dialogue with you. So, and also, we can talk about, we feel like we try to explore multiple sides of an issue. We don't yell about the issues unless we're angry. Once in a while we do. But, and we don't try to make you think a certain way. We just try to present a lot of different sides of issues and present information and let you decide what to think. So that's why we do the pre-shows and the post-shows. And we're going to go to this press conference in any second now, we will. But I will keep going here. Jake will tell me in my ear when we're going, and we'll go right there. Ket King writes in, Lieberman is in bed with the Clintons. We need to hope that this is a trap set for Lieberman by President Trump. So you do not seem enthusiastic, Ket King, about Joe Lieberman possibly being FBI director. The Syria story that happened this morning, we got a question about that. So as I understand it, let's see if I can remember this. U.S. jets bombed some Syrian and Iranian forces that were getting too close to American-backed Kurdish forces. I don't know if any Americans were involved with those forces. And so and supposedly the Americans gave warning to this column of Syrian and Iranian forces, as I read it, and they didn't respond to the warning, so they bombed some of them. That's really all I know about that story right now. I can't speak very intelligently to it. One of the other stories I will try to do some more reading about later in the day. Common Sense writes in, here is the link for the Clinton investigation. It says, Lindsey Graham made a surprise statement on Thursday on Fox News saying he believes operatives in the Clinton campaign emailed the Justice Department during the email investigation. Graham says he has reason to believe the communications exist and said he would like to see them turned over to the Senate Judiciary Committee, of which he is a member. So it sounds like this is... this is, Lindsey Graham talking about that there are some emails related to President Clinton's emails that he wants the Senate to be able to explore. But he's not saying here that these emails should be part of the investigation by the special counsel into Russia. And he's not saying these emails should be investigated as part of the Senate Russia investigation. It seems like he's saying the Senate should look at it, but not as part of their investigation into the Russia thing. Thank you for the link, though, Common Sense. Any second now, we will be going to the President's press conference, joint press conference with the President of Colombia from the White House. I think just Jack Posobiec might be there because he just tweeted out a picture of the podia there. So I think Jack might be there. That's Jack, Posobiec, if anyone wants to see that picture. And I'm getting this report, and Ari Melber reports, I think is he at NBC, Ari Melber? Yeah, he's at MSNBC. He says, now a second senator, Dick Durbin, says that Rosenstein said that he knew Comey to be fired before he wrote the memo, which conflicts with the original White House account of why they fired James Comey, but not the subsequent account given by President Trump. It's a little confusing. If Rosenstein says he knew Comey was going to be fired before he wrote the memo, why did he write the memo exactly? Because it seems like if you write that memo... Well, here's the thing. If Rosenstein is upset that he's seen as partially responsible for the firing, if you write that memo, you have to assume that memo might be cited in the firing of him. So it seems a little funky if Rosenstein's saying, well, I wrote the memo, but I didn't at all think it was going to be used to help as justification for firing him. So maybe he just wants to not be seen as the person who initiated the firing. That could be the case. Let me grab a little drink of water. In my right side mug, can I reach it? Oh, it's a little far away. I got to put it closer to me next time. Oop, I have a big cable on me now. I hope this wasn't hanging here all the whole time. I apologize if it was. Okay, we have, the time is just about 4 o'clock Eastern. We're going to go to this press conference as soon as it starts. I believe they're ready to go there. They're just waiting on the participants. And President Trump and the President of Colombia will be giving this press conference. Join us after the press conference right back here. We'll be doing a post show. We'll be taking your comments and your questions. Speaking of which, I want to make sure I didn't miss any of your emails. Okay, I think we're caught up there. And I should say also, feel free to subscribe to Right Side on YouTube if you want to get up-to-date notifications about our videos. We do sometimes live videos during the day. Go subscribe on YouTube, click the notifications bell. You can get notifications that way. And also follow us on Twitter at RSB Network. You can get news about our videos that way too. If you want to try to get a last-minute question in, You can write to the addresses on your screen. I'll read your comment or question on the air at Lookner on Twitter or steve.lookner@rsbn.tv. Email. And just so you know, if you're in a chat room, I can't see the chat rooms in here. So if you're in the chat room on Facebook or the chat room on YouTube and you ask a question, I won't see it. So if you ask a question, you want to get it answered, or have a comment and you want to see it on the air, cut and paste it and then send it to me. On Twitter is the best place to send it to me. Let's see here. I think this is a new message. America First writes in, Trump and his team should have never given the Democrats an inch. If Sessions never recused himself, we'd be in a much better place. The only reason Democrats want a special prosecutor is because they want to drag this investigation on until the 2018 elections, if not the 2020 elections as well. So sick of these scummy tactics. So America First, you will be chalked up as someone who's not a fan of this special counsel announcement. And also you think that Jeff Sessions should not have recused himself. I will say this, and this is something I was saying this last night on the coverage when we were live. You know, the thing about having a special counsel who's independent, who's, Robert Mueller, who Democrats are cool with, doing this investigation is if at the end of the investigation, he comes out and says, President Trump didn't do anything wrong, no charges. That, I think, will help President Trump a lot more than if Jeff Sessions or Rod Rosenstein did the investigation and oversaw the investigation and then came out 3 months from now and said the same thing. So really, if Mueller comes out and says President Trump didn't do anything wrong, President Trump at that point will be able to come out and say, like, look at all the time and money and energy you've wasted, everybody, on this. You wasted so much time that we could have been, and so much energy and so much money, and we could have been this whole time focusing on making the country better by passing legislation and stuff. So if it does come out that if it does end up happening that Robert Mueller clears President Trump and the Trump campaign in this, given that it's like an independent counsel, a special counsel that liberals are okay with, at that point, I think it'll give President Trump something really strong to say. And it may hurt Democrats because then in the future, if they complain about stuff, President Trump will say, look, you complained about the Russia stuff for 6 months. And nothing ever came of it. Okay, we are going to go to the press conference. Hope you enjoy it. Join us afterwards right here for a post show about the press conference. But for now, enjoy the press conference.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States and the President of the Republic of Colombia.
Thank you very much. It is a great pleasure to welcome President Santos to the White House. Colombia is one of our closest allies in the hemisphere, and today we reaffirm partnership between our two great nations. President Santos and I had a very productive meeting, and we will continue to work very closely together to bring peace, safety, and prosperity to the hemisphere. Perhaps no area is really more important in terms of cooperation than our joint effort to end the terrible drug crimes that plague both of our countries. Recently, we have seen an alarmed, and I mean really a very highly alarmed and alarming trend. Last year, Colombia cocoa cultivation and cocaine production reached a record high, which hopefully will be remedied very quickly by the president. We must confront this dangerous threat to our societies together. Today, I affirm the United States' willingness to assist Colombia's strategy to target and eliminate drug trafficking networks, illicit financings, cocoa cultivation, and cocaine production, of which there is far too much. The drug epidemic is poisoning too many American lives, and we're going to stop it many different ways. One of them will be the wall. My administration is committed to keeping drugs and gangs from pouring into our country. Already border crossings are down more than 73%. Secretary Kelly is with us. He's done a fantastic job. Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary. And in short, we have a tremendous group of people working with us in terms of ICE, the ICE Patrol and the Border Patrol agents. They've done a fantastic job, and I'd like you to give them my highest compliments, Mr. Secretary. And MS-13, likewise, a horrible, horrible, large group of gangs that have been led into our country over a fairly short period of time are being decimated by the Border Patrol, by ICE, and by our incredible local police forces. And they are getting out of our country, or in some cases going directly into prisons throughout our country. But they've literally taken over towns and cities of the United States. They will be gone very quickly. I look forward to working with President Santos as we target drug trafficking. Both the United States and Colombia have strong law enforcement and security relationship. We've had it, and especially over the last fairly short period of time. Together, we will continue to fight the criminal networks responsible for the deadly drug trade that our people have a really strong commitment to getting rid of, because they want a much brighter future. President Santos and I also discussed the deteriorating situation in Venezuela, and it is really in a very bad state, as you see, and as we all see through the media. The stable and peaceful Venezuela is in the best interest of the entire hemisphere, and America stands with all of the people in our great hemisphere yearning to be free. We will be working with Colombia and other countries on the Venezuelan problem. It is a very, very horrible problem, and from a humanitarian standpoint, it is like nothing we've seen in quite a long time. The United States and Colombia are also strong economic partners, and we will continue to pursue trade policies that benefit both of our peoples. The nation's common goals of protecting our citizens, expanding opportunity, and confronting the drug crisis will improve the lives of our people and many throughout the region. So many people are being so horribly affected by what's going on in terms of violence and in terms of drugs, and we're going to take care of the situation, and we've both agreed to take care of it strongly and quickly. President Santos, it was an honor to meet with you and your entire group of representatives, very talented people indeed, who have been working with us and my representatives, and I look forward to many more productive meetings, such as the one we just had. I'd like to thank you very much for being at the White House, being our guest, and I'd like to congratulate you on winning the Nobel Peace Prize. It's a very great achievement. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, I want to thank you personally for this warm and productive visit, and for the strong support Colombia has received from your administration, from Congress, and from the American people. Como usted sabe, nuestras naciones han...
As you know, our nations have had for a long time a strategic alliance, an extraordinary friendship. We believe in the same principles of democracy, freedom, and the rule of law. And we work so that the Western Hemisphere can be more prosperous and safe. The United States and Colombia, both democracies of greater and of longer standing in the hemisphere, we have supported each other. Our soldiers fight shoulder to shoulder in the Korean War. At the request of the United States, we sent anti-drug experts to Afghanistan, and today Colombia and the United States are working together to support Central America in their fight against drug cartels and the violence of organized crime. I can say, Mr. President, based on our conversation this afternoon, that I have no doubt that the United States and Colombia continue to be today, more than ever, a support one for the other. Our alliance was strengthened. Our most valuable cooperation has been Plan Colombia, which I can sum up in very simple terms. When Colombians were fighting to survive, for our democracy to survive, actually, faced with the threat of terrorism and drug trafficking, the United States stretched out a hand and helped us win that battle. We will never forget it. Today we live in a different country. Today, Colombia is a more peaceful society, a more modern and a fairer society. In November last year, we ended the longest and last armed conflict existing in our hemisphere. The guerrilla is putting down weapons at this precise time to the United Nations. Insecurity has gone down significantly. Today we have the lowest levels of violence of the last 40 years. At the same time, we have had significant progress for our citizens on issues such as education, housing, health, and social services. Millions of Colombians have been lifted out of poverty. Today, we continue next to you as partners in Peace Colombia to consolidate peace in the most affected areas. With the robust support of your government, we are removing thousands of anti-personnel mines that murdered and mutilated children, women, and soldiers. We are healing the wounds of our victims, and we are embarking on a big social development program. Such as we said today, we are working with your administration to take advantage of the unique opportunity peace offers so as to reduce permanently the production of coca leaf in Colombia and fight more effectively the other links in drug trafficking, including consumption. We must continue and deepen the fight against organized crime, transnational crime, responsible not just for drug trafficking, but also for human trafficking and illegal mining. Our shared agenda, framed within a high-level dialogue that we Colombians value so much, includes cooperation, which has allowed us to have unprecedented progress towards quality education for everyone. And this is a priority in the policies of my government. And we wish to do more with regards to innovation and technology. With the active participation of the private sector, we have reached trade agreements, investment agreements that are mutually beneficial. This morning, we established the Entrepreneurial Council between the United States and Colombia. We are and wish to continue to be the best destination in Latin America for American businesses. Colombia will continue to be very proudly a close friend and a strategic ally of the United States. Dear President Trump, I hope you can visit us soon so that you can personally witness the transformation underway in our country. I hope to be able to welcome you to a Colombia in peace, a more equitable Colombia, a better educated Colombia that you have so much contributed to. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions? I'm shocked. John, go ahead. Thank you.
Mr. President, I'd like to get your reaction to Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein's decision to appoint a special counsel to investigate the Russian interference in the campaign. Was this the right move, or is this part of a witch hunt?
Well, I respect the move, but the entire thing has been a witch hunt, and there is no collusion between certainly myself and my campaign, but I can always speak for myself and the Russians, zero. I think it divides the country. I think we have a very divided country because of that and many other things. So I can tell you that we want to bring this great country of ours together, John. And I will also say very strongly, we've had tremendous success. You look at our job numbers, you look at what's going on at the border, as we discussed before, you look at what will be happening, you're going to see some incredible numbers with respect to the success of General Mattis and others with the ISIS situation. The numbers are staggering, how successful they've been, the military has been. Tomorrow, as you know, I'm going to Saudi Arabia, going to Israel, we're going to Rome, and we have the G7. We have a lot of great things going on. So I hate to see anything that divides. I'm fine with whatever people want to do, but we have to get back to running this country really, really well. We've made tremendous progress in the last 100 and some odd days, tremendous progress. And you see job numbers, you see all of the production that's starting, plants starting to open again, haven't been open in years. I'm very proud of it. That's what I want to be focused on, because believe me, there's no collusion. Russia is fine, but whether it's Russia or anybody else, my total priority, believe me, is the United States of America. So thank you very much.
Señor Maldonado.
President Trump, President Santos, can we say that today we are setting a new roadmap in the relationship between Colombia and the United States? Which are the concrete commitments You were talking about the post-conflict time. Many funds are needed for that. And on the issue of Venezuela, President Trump, many deaths, human rights violations. There's plenty to be done.
Venezuela is a very, very serious problem. We haven't really seen a problem like that, I would say, Mr. President, in decades, in terms of the kind of violence that we're witnessing. The president was telling me, and I knew, that Venezuela was a very, very wealthy country, just about the wealthiest in your neck of the woods, and had tremendous strengths in so many different ways. And now it's poverty-stricken. People don't have enough to eat. People have no food. There's great violence. And we will do whatever is necessary, and we'll work together to do whatever is necessary to help with fixing that. And I'm really talking on a humanitarian level. When you look at the oil reserves that they have, when you look at the potential wealth that Venezuela has, you sort of have to wonder, why is that happening? How is that possible? But it's been unbelievably poorly run for a long period of time, and hopefully that will change, and they can use those assets for the good and to take care of their people, because right now what's happening is really a disgrace to humanity. And John, I think you also had a question for the president, if you'd like to.
Does he have another one?
Yeah.
This question about the commitment, mire, el compromiso.
The commitment on President Trump's side and his administration was shown through the approval of the budget, that for Colombia means an increase in the support to fund the post-conflict era. Last night, we received from a very important organization, the Atlantic Council, a report which includes both parties, presided by a Republican senator and a Democrat senator, with a roadmap recommending the governments of the United States and Colombia to follow. This morning, we established this Entrepreneurial Council, United States-Colombia, so that the private sector can also have a voice in that roadmap. This means we are working together on every front that can be convenient for both countries. We will continue to work together. We have ratified that commitment today during our conversation. And as I said before, we have the best of relations with the United States. We are strategic allies in the region, and we will continue to be so.
Thank you, Mr. President. President Santos, to you. You heard President Trump say that critical to stopping the flow of drugs into the United States will be the wall that he wants to build on the Mexican border. Do you agree with him? Would that wall be a step, a positive step, and a step towards reducing the flow of drugs across the border?
I believe that the best way to fight the drug trafficking is by collaborating. This is not a problem of Colombia only or a problem of the United States only. It's a world problem. And we have to all work together. We declared the war on drugs 40 years ago. The world declared the war on drugs, and it's a war that has not been won. So we must be more effective and more efficient. Now, we are doing a very big effort because of the peace process to have a new strategy, carrot and stick. Stick, by forced eradication, we have already eradicated this year only 15,000 hectares, which is the whole volume that we eradicated last year, and we're starting to eradicate, to substitute voluntarily through a program where the peasants, and we have 80,000 families already in the program, that they are going to substitute for legal crops. And this is the first time that this could be done because of the peace. Before, the conflict did not allow us to build roads and to give these peasants an alternative. Now we have. So we have to take advantage of this opportunity and continue reducing the production of coca. In the meantime, we will work together, the U.S. and Colombia, with other countries, Central America, to fight the other links of the chain, the intermediaries. We have destroyed 22,000 laboratories in the Colombian jungles, seizing the cocaine in the transit. We have seized record amount of tons last year, and this year we're doing even better than last year. So by working together, we can be much more effective, and that is the commitment we just made or ratified this afternoon.
And that was a long and very diplomatic answer to your question. I will say it a little bit shorter. Walls work, just ask Israel. They work, believe me, they work, and we have no choice. Peter Baker? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. President. In the light of a very busy news week, a lot of people would like to get to the bottom of a couple of things, give you a chance to go on record here. Did you at any time urge former FBI Director James Comey in any way, shape, or form to close or to back down the investigation into Michael Flynn? And also, as you look back...
No. Next question.
Next question. As you look back over the past 6 months or year, have you had any recollection where you've wondered if anything you have done has been something that might be worthy of criminal charges in these investigations or impeachment, as some on the left are implying?
I think it's totally ridiculous. Everybody thinks so. And again, we have to get back to working our country properly so that we can take care of the problems that we have. We have plenty of problems. We've done a fantastic job. We have a tremendous group of people, millions and millions of people out there that are looking at what you had just said and said, what are they doing? Director Comey was very unpopular with most people. I actually thought when I made that decision, and I also got a very, very strong recommendation, as you know, from the Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein. But when I made that decision, I actually thought that it would be a bipartisan decision, because you look at all of the people on the Democratic side, not only the Republican side, that was saying such terrible things about Director Comey. Then he had the very poor performance on Wednesday. That was a poor, poor performance. So poor, in fact, that I believe, and you'd have to ask him, because I don't like to speak for other people, but I believe that's why the Deputy Attorney General went out and wrote his very, very strong letter. And then on top of that, after the Wednesday performance by Director Comey, you had a person come and have to readjust the record, which many people have never seen before, because there were misstatements made. And I thought that was something that was terrible. We need a great director of the FBI. I cherish the FBI. It's special. All over the world, no matter where you go, the FBI is special. The FBI has not had that special reputation with what happened in the campaign, what happened with respect to the Clinton campaign, and even, you could say, directly or indirectly, with respect to the much more successful Trump campaign. We're going to have a director who's going to be outstanding. I'll be announcing that director very soon, and I look forward to doing it. I think the people in the FBI will be very, 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 very thrilled. And just in concluding, we look forward to getting this whole situation behind us, so that when we go for the jobs, we go for the strong military, when we go for all of the things that we've been pushing so hard and so successfully, including health care, because Obamacare is collapsing. It's dead. It's gone. There's nothing to compare anything to, because we don't have health care in this country. You just look at what's happening. Aetna just pulled out. Other insurance companies are pulling out. We don't have health care. Obamacare is a fallacy. It's gone. We need health care. We need to cut taxes. We're going to cut taxes. If I get what I want, it'll be the biggest tax cut in the history of our nation. And that's what I want. It's going to bring back companies. It's going to bring back jobs. We lost so many jobs and so many companies to countries that are not so far from you, Mr. President. They're very close to you, actually, and to many other places throughout the world. We're going to change that. We're going to have expansion. We already do. You look at what's happening with Ford and with General Motors in Michigan and Ohio. You look at the tremendous number of jobs that are being announced in so many different fields. That's what I'm proud of, and that's what we want to focus our energy on. The other is something I can only tell you. There was no collusion, and everybody, even my enemies, have said there is no collusion. So we want to get back and keep on the track that we're on, because the track that we're on is record-setting, and that's what we want to do, is we want to break very positive records. Thank you. You could ask a question.
Ricardo. Oh, sorry. You have another question?
For you, yes, sir, Mr. President. My question is, as someone who led a nation that's really done a lot of rebuilding and had to rebound from an epidemic of crime and drugs over quite a many years, what do you make of Mr. Trump's America First policy? And further, you've had a tough time with conservative radio, sometimes been called a punching bag, and you said you have to persevere. I'm curious if you've given any advice to President Trump on how to do so.
I don't think I'm in a position to give any advice to President Trump. He can take care of himself. What we did in Colombia, you quite rightly mentioned it, is persevere. When you know your port of destination, and you know that you're doing the correct thing, you simply have to persevere. And that's what we've done in Colombia, and that's why we were on the verge of being a failed state some years ago, and now we're one of the stars of the region. And that's through hard work, perseverance, and clarity of your objectives. And that's what we have done, and we have to continue, because the trip is not over. Ricardo Ávila.
Mr. President, I'd like to ask you about trade. You are about to start the renegotiation of NAFTA, and Colombia, unlike other countries in the hemisphere, has a large trade deficit with the United States. Are you worried about the fact that that could contribute to increasing that trade deficit?
Position on the peace process in Colombia.
Well, it's been a long process, and it's been a great thing to watch, in the sense that the president did a fantastic job. That's not easy after so many years of war. So I'm very, very proud to get to know you, and I really congratulate you. There's nothing tougher than peace, and we want to make peace all over the world, and you are really a great example of somebody that started it. I mean, that was a long, tough situation, as you know very well, coming from the country. But I think the president has done a magnificent job. Not easy, but he's done a magnificent job.
Más claro no canta un gallo, como dicen, ¿no?
Clearer impossible. On the trade issue, our deficit with the United States is not so large. It is a moderate deficit, which of course both countries will try to increase the volume of trade in both directions, and investments also in both directions. Colombia is becoming an important investor here in the United States, and this is something not many people know, but we have considerable investments in the United States. We have attempted to give dynamism to these flows of trade, of investment, getting together those main players who are the investors in the private sector. I believe the foundations have been laid. We have the free trade agreement, which is working well. The number of Colombian businesses that are exporting to the United States has grown, and we both believe that we can take greater advantage of those agreements in order to increase flows in both directions for the benefit both of the Colombian and American peoples.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Thank you.
That was the joint press conference with President Trump and the president of Colombia. Hope you enjoyed it. And we're here. This is the post show at Right Side Broadcasting. We want to get your feedback on what happened during the press conference. There were a couple moments when President Trump was asked about the special counsel. He was asked about the wall. He was asked about the Russia investigation. He had some strong responses to all of those. So we'll go over those. But we'd love to get your feedback about the press conference. What'd you think? Give me a shout. Read your comment on the air at Lookner on Twitter at LOOKNER. Or email me, steve.lookner@rsbn.tv. And I'm going to quickly go over a couple of moments from that briefing that I took special note of. So I think, is it right to call it like the highlight? I think like the big soundbite moment of the briefing was when President Trump was asked if he told FBI Director Comey to stop the investigation into Michael Flynn. And President Trump didn't even let the questioner finish before he said something like no, no, no. He said a very loud no. It reminded me of when he would be asked, he would be like accused of something during one of the debates and he would just say no, but before the person ever finished their accusation. So he had a very firm answer to this. He said no, 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 and he said next question. So very firm answer into that. President Trump also said there was no collusion. He was asked about the Russia investigation. He said there was no collusion between his campaign or himself and Russia. And also, he talked about the firing of James Comey a bit. He said that James Comey was very unpopular. He said he criticized James Comey's performance before Congress on May 3rd, saying it was a poor performance. And he also suggested that it was important in the firing of James Comey that the Deputy Attorney General, he suggested that the Deputy Attorney General's memo listing how the ways James Comey had gone wrong in the Clinton investigation. He said that memo was important in the firing of Comey. Now, some people have said that I've already read some tweets where some people said that seems to conflict with President Trump saying that he knew he was going to. So originally from the White House, like the first night, it was, hey, James Comey got fired because of these memos from the Attorney General and the Deputy Attorney General. But then the story President Trump told to Lester Holt, if I'm getting this right, was that he was going to fire him anyway. And some people are going to say, well, if you said today that the Deputy Attorney General's memo was important about Comey, doesn't that conflict with you saying you were going to fire him anyway? Now, I'm guessing President Trump would say something in return, would have something to say in return to that, but that is a point you might be hearing about. Okay, so we're talking about some of the things that were said during the press conference, but would love to hear your thoughts on this. Give me a shout at Lookner on Twitter or email me, steve.lookner@rsbn.tv. Keck King says that rude reporter should be called out. So I'm doing that. I'm calling you out, rude reporter. So Keck King, is the rude reporter, just to make sure, is this the person who asked President Trump the question, who asked President Trump, did you ask James Comey to stop the investigation into Michael Flynn? You're saying that reporter was rude. There was, another little side thing that went on during the press conference, and it might have been just a simple mistake. Is at some point, President Trump pointed at somebody for the next question. He said it was Peter something from the New York Times. I can't remember the last name. It was Peter something from the New York Times, and then it turns out that person wasn't at the press conference. And somebody else asked the question. So it's possible that President Trump just had a slip up and pointed at one person but said another name. But figured I'd mention it for people who are interested in it. Peter Baker. So the story was he pointed at Peter Baker and then the staff gave the microphone to somebody from a Sinclair broadcasting station. And then there was some speculation he might have pointed to Peter Alexander and said Peter Baker. So not sure exactly what the mix-up was there, but that happened. President Trump also said he was asked about the wall, and there was an interesting moment where there was a question to the Colombian president, what do you think about the strategy of building a wall? And the Colombian president kind of dodged it. He didn't really directly speak to the wall. And then President Trump said something like, well, he just gave you a diplomatic answer. I'm going to give you like a shorter answer. And my answer is like, walls work, ask Israel. He said something to that effect. Now, there was this, I remember in that answer, there was this interesting moment because I don't think President Trump was saying this is what the Colombian president meant, but I could see the Colombian president interpreting President Trump that way. So maybe he didn't. I don't know what the Colombian president thought of President Trump's answer. Message from, I got a few messages here about the briefing. Let me go through them. Jeffrey Williams says, I don't think President Trump knows how to give a politically correct answer. That is awesome. That is one of his strong points. So you like Jeffrey that he gives answers that are not politically correct. You had also asked earlier, Jeffrey, in your estimation, is President Trump in any serious trouble because some of this stuff is keeping me up at night? So in terms of serious trouble, my opinion is of the stuff that's happened so far, the problematic thing in terms of President Trump in the future, in terms of would he get charged with a crime or impeached, is the asking Comey to stop the investigation into Michael Flynn. Because if President Trump did that, and if the special counsel becomes convinced he did that, he very well could be charged with obstruction of justice. It's not entirely clear because it's like it comes down to how you interpret the obstruction of justice law. And also, there are these things where in theory, he could be charged with the Justice Department, by the special counsel, with obstruction of justice, but I've read things that said, well, while a sitting president can be charged with a crime like that, the tendency is not to want to charge them with a crime like that. But if he doesn't get charged with obstruction of justice by the special counsel, he could be, if the special counsel says something like, look, we think there was some kind of obstruction of justice, but we're not charging him with it, Congress could then, perhaps, if they decide to, vote to impeach him over that. Now, that might not happen because there's still, the House has to vote to impeach the president, and the House still has a Republican majority. So that seems to me the one specific thing that we know now that could be particularly problematic for the president, depending on how the investigation goes and what turns up. So that's my best answer I can give you with that, on that, Jeffrey. Let's see. Star-Lord writes in, keep up the great work, guys. Good insight. Thank you, Star-Lord. That's very nice of you. Well, we do this for you. We cover this for you and with you, so we appreciate it. It makes us feel good when you enjoy the coverage. And speaking of which, if you enjoy this kind of coverage, hope you consider donating. Even a small donation helps because we rely on you to stay on the air. Our budget is basically your donations and ad revenues from YouTube. Ad revenues from YouTube are not a lot. They don't cover our expenses at all. So if you'd like to donate, you could go to rsbn.tv/donate. That's rsbn.tv/donate. Or you can click on the $ at the bottom of the chat room on YouTube. And if you click on that $ at the bottom of the chat room, very easy to donate that way. A little window pops up. Or if you are interested in getting some free stuff from Right Side, like a Right Side mug and other Right Side goodies, in exchange for setting up a monthly donation, you can go to our Patreon site, www.patreon.com/RSBN. Thank you, by the way, to the moderators for moderating today. Much appreciated. I Stand With Trump writes in, didn't Comey perjure himself in his testimony on May 3rd? MAGA Steve, great job. Thank you. I Stand With Trump. So I think I know what you're talking about. I'm trying to remember the exact point on which some people are saying James Comey perjured himself. So I think what you're talking about was when James Comey said, I don't know if it was May 3rd, but I know McCabe said in testimony that there had been no attempts to derail or obstruct the investigation, the Russia investigation, that he knew about. So I've heard people say, did McCabe say something? Did he lie? Because why would McCabe not have known about Comey being asked by President Trump to stop the investigation into General Flynn? Wouldn't Comey have told Director McCabe about that? So there's that. I can't recall, did Comey say something similar in his testimony? Did he say something like, President Trump has never interfered or something like that? I'd have to look at the exact testimony. Feel free to send me a link. I get confused with all this testimony and what exactly who said and when, so I don't want to give you an answer when I don't remember the exact testimony. Thanks for the question. I stand with Trump. Eric S. Crocker writes in, the Colombian president was smirking during the wall exchange. So Eric, I kind of noticed this too, but I wasn't sure. So again, what happened is the president of Colombia was asked some question, hey, like, what do you think building a wall helps stop drugs and I think it was help stop drugs from coming into the country. And he gave this answer where he didn't really speak directly to that. He basically said something like, we and the Americans are working together. And so he didn't really talk about the wall. And then President Trump said something like, look, he gave you a long diplomatic answer. I'm going to give you like the short version of that answer. Building a wall works, ask Israel. And one could interpret President Trump as saying, this is what the Colombian president was saying, but I'm saying it less diplomatically. But you don't have to interpret Trump that way. And I was wondering, did the Colombian president interpret President Trump that way? And I did say he sort of smiled, or I did notice that as Eric S. Crocker said, that when President Trump gave his answer about, well, this is the shorter version of the president of Colombia's, what the president of Colombia said. When the President Trump gave that answer, the president of Colombia kind of smiled a bit, but I'm not sure what he was smiling about. Was he smiling because he was like, oh, President Trump is putting words in my mouth, I didn't say this about the wall? Or was he smiling because, oh, President Trump is giving a politically incorrect answer, and he was smiling about that. So hard to say exactly here why Eric S. Crocker, the Colombian president, was giving that look. But I did notice it. A good eye, Eric S. Crocker. I noticed that too. Michael Keith Hughes writes in, I don't like PC answers either. So we had a viewer before, I can't remember who, said I don't like PC answers, and you liked that Trump gave non-PC answers. So I'm guessing some of you out there think President Trump's answer about the wall was a non-PC answer. And you like that. So thank you, Michael Keith Hughes, for writing in. And okay, we have some more comments here. Optimistic American says, when Donald J. Trump said people wonder what they are doing in D.C., he was spot on. Thank you for airing the press conference. You're welcome. I'm trying to remember, Optimistic American, I catch when the press conferences are on, I catch like the vast majority of it, but I'm also kind of, checking the news in here and kind of going back and forth between here and the office. And I don't remember specifically when Trump said people wonder what they are doing in D.C. So if you have the paragraph, feel free to send it to me again. I can't remember that exact remark. I wish I did. Okay, thank you, Jake. All right. So Jake said a bunch of people in the chat were saying that they thought Comey had said on May 3rd, no one ever pressured him to shut down an investigation. Now, what I would need to do is go back and read the testimony because, I would want to know what Comey was asked. If he was asked, did anyone ever pressure you to shut down the Russia investigation? He could have answered that and not said anything false in the sense of, he might have thought, well, the Russia investigation is what they're asking about. They're not asking about the General Flynn investigation. So to know if Comey indeed said that and know, does that conflict with his report about what President Trump asked him to do in the Oval Office, I would need to go back and specifically look at what was Comey asked and what specific thing was he talking about then, or did he think he was being asked about then? So I'm not saying you're wrong, people in the chat room. I'm just saying I need to go back and look at that testimony. But I appreciate you in the chat room for bringing that up. Thank you. Jane says conversation between Trump and Comey was after FBI had closed the case. So Jane, are you saying the conversation between Trump and Comey about General Flynn was after FBI had closed the case? I wasn't aware that the FBI had closed an investigation to General Flynn. As far as I was aware, that was ongoing. So maybe you have different information from me. But it was after General Flynn was fired. It was the day after General Flynn was let go. But I don't believe the FBI had closed a case into General Flynn. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jane. Thank you for writing in. Oh, somebody in the chat said supportively, you don't know everything, Steve. Well, I don't. I wish also I had, some people have like this kind of photographic memory, and I read things and then I forget them very fast after, and I can't remember the exact details. And I'll be honest with you, we're very honest here at Right Side. So if I don't know something, even though it might make me look a little bad, I'll tell you I don't know rather than kind of try to stumble my way through an answer which sort of papers over the fact that I don't know. I'll tell you I don't know. So I wish I had a better photographic memory, but I don't. Let's see. I Stand With Trump sent me a link to May 3rd questions. Thank you, I Stand With Trump. I'll try to check that out later. It's a YouTube link. Deplorable Tiger Fan says, here's what Comey said on May 3rd. So what I'm missing here, I'm missing the question he was asked. It says, let me look through, but I'm talking about, it says, not in my experience, because it would be a big deal to tell the FBI to stop doing something that without an appropriate purpose. I mean, where oftentimes something. So again, I would like to know what the questions were asked before this. JC says, even if the president shot me in the foot, I'd still vote Trump 2020. Go POTUS. Hashtag MAGA. Thank you and RSBN for your hard work and dedication. We are with you. Thank you. Hashtag RSBN Mod Squad. Thank you, JC and the rest of the moderators. Much appreciated. Common Sense says, I loved when Trump shut down that stupid question. I really hope they lock Hitlery up. Thank you, God for Trump says, hi, Steve. I think it is so rude for our American reporters to ask President Trump at every joint press conference with foreign leaders such disrespectful questions. For example, they'll ask the foreign leader if he or she has any advice for the president, as if Trump's an ignorant fool that needs outside help. Also, they'll try to get the foreign leader to badmouth our president and his policies, like with the wall question today, as if Colombian president is going to reply, no, I'm against it. Thanks to you and RSBN for giving us a way to express our opinions. Really appreciated. So thank you, God for Trump. I do think you make a very good point here, which is two of the questions asked today of the Colombian president, as you pointed out, one was something like, do you agree that the wall is a good strategy? And one was something like, what was the other one? I can't remember exactly, but I think there was some kind of, do you have any suggestion for the president question? See, this is one of these things, I can't remember exactly what was asked. But those are certainly questions that can be seen as like questions that imply, President Trump might be wrong about stuff. And I'm not to say that kind of question can never be asked, but it's like I could see also, I understand your complaint, which is it could be seen as rude to the president because you're saying they imply he's doing something wrong or he needs help. And if you're somebody who thinks a lot of the press is very negative toward Trump, you could see these questions as negative style questions, So thank you, God. Thank you, God for Trump for bringing that up.
Steve, I'm going to jump in real quick. Boston Gina in the chat room said, RSBN, if you watch your own live stream from May 3rd advance to 2 hours and 13 minutes, you'll have it all. I believe that's referring to Comey.
Okay, cool. That was people could hear you, right, Jake?
Yes.
Okay, so that will be on our list of things to watch. Thank you for writing that in. Appreciate it. Jane says, Flynn was cleared in January, dinner was in February. Jane, I'm not aware of Flynn being cleared. So that's where I'm a bit confused. I know for a fact the Senate is still investigating Flynn because the Senate just sent out a subpoena for him today, or they sent out a subpoena for him recently. But I am not aware of the FBI clearing Flynn of anything. I thought they were still investigating him. Anonymous Observer says, but Jane, feel free to write in again and clarify if you'd like. Anonymous Observer says, glad reporters asked him hard questions. He needs to answer them himself and stand up for himself. Love Mr. Trump. Hope the best. Thank you, Anonymous Observer, for your comment. Dave Reinecke says, is it just me? I get so angry and the questions never seem to change on Trump and the Comey issue. Reporters are fixated on fake news, nothing on real news, just speculation reporting. So Dave Reinecke, you're somebody else who is unhappy with the questioning today. Okay, we're going to be on just a couple more minutes here. With our post show. If you'd like to get any last minute questions, write to me on Twitter at Lookner. Feel free to follow me there as well at LOOKNER, or email me steve.lookner@rsbn.tv. Oh, interesting thing I noticed about the New York car that ran over people in Times Square story. I saw reports. I'll say these are unconfirmed because I haven't confirmed them myself with lots of news organizations, but I saw reports that said the suspect who was arrested, who drove the car, had no alcohol in his system, but he was also fleeing from a robbery. Now that's unconfirmed, but that would be a reason, if that's true, why he was driving so out of control. Very sad story. And I saw that the girl who got killed was like an 18-year-old girl who, I saw reports that she was a tourist from Florida. Really sad. The whole thing very sad. Oh, a bunch of emails I have not gotten to yet. So let me just go through some of these, try to get through these quickly. Amanda Maccabee writes in, hi Steve, so my question is, why is Trump going to Saudi Arabia, Rome, and Israel? By the way, love your show, Make America Great Again, God bless the U.S. Thank you, Amanda, for the question and for your kind words. So, long story short, so if you want to know exactly why he's going, there was an explanation given for this. It was last week, was it a press conference by President Trump, or was it Rex? No, General McMaster, when he was on one of the Sean Spicer press briefings last week, and he talked a bunch about this. So if you want the full explanation, go back on Right Side and look for the press briefing from last week where General McMaster came out first, and he explained all of this. I mean, basically speaking, I think, well, there's a couple reasons. Saudi Arabia is a big ally, and Israel's a big ally, so that's just a good reason to go to Saudi Arabia and Israel. But also, those are the three big monotheistic religions: Islam, Christianity, and Israel, and Judaism. And so I think there's a message of a message of unity President Trump wants to put across. He wants to visit the places that are like the chief locations, the capitals, if you will, of all of the big religions, the major monotheistic religions, and do outreach for them. And maybe, part of this is that some people have criticized President Trump. Some people think he's intolerant, and some people think he's anti-Muslim or whatever. We've had some people think remember when during the period when there were these threats to Jewish centers, some people were saying like, oh, that's a result of President Trump and his intolerance. So I think part of him going to visit those countries might want to be to show that, he embraces these different religions and he's a very tolerant person. So that could factor in there. But they're also important allies there. So a lot of things I think are going on with that trip. But thank you for the question. Let me go back to my email. Marjorie Saraga writes in, Steve, are we really now basing our judgments on smirks and facial expressions? This is ridiculous. We all have different expressions, and sometimes they are not intentional to send a message, but happen naturally. So what? So, Marjorie, I did not make a judgment. All I said is that he did have a facial expression. the Colombian president, and I was speculating on what it might have meant, if anything. So I didn't. What I don't do here, and what we don't hear at Right Side, is judge based on insufficient evidence. So if you go back and you watch what I said, I was very careful to say this is one way you could have interpreted this, but I don't know the reason he was. So I do think it's fair game when politicians make a certain facial remark. That's part of when they make a press experience, is part of interpreting them is interpreting their facial gestures, but you have to do so carefully, and I think, at best it's speculation, but I feel we were careful there, and I didn't say this is what he meant. I said this is something that he could have meant, but these are, I could be wrong here. I gave a couple different options, Marjorie, that I thought I thought of that were ways you might be able to interpret his facial gesture. But I thought it was noticeable, so it was worth, to me, speculating about. One of the other viewers wrote in about it, so I'm sorry you were dissatisfied with that. Jason Thornton, I have an email from you here that says, if I can get to it, thanks RSBN for covering this presser. We miss seeing President Trump smacking down our ignorant and snarky reporters. They are the poison that is affecting mainstream media. That is why we appreciate RSBN bringing us just the facts and letting us make up our own minds. The foreign press asks more relevant questions and makes our media reporters look like the fools they really are. Keep up the great work, Steve, at rsbn.tv. Regards, Jason Thornton, by the way, CNN SUX. Thank you, Jason, for your message and for your support of Right Side Broadcasting. You are a longtime supporter, I know. Greg Jackson writes in, what a jerk of a question. The reporter Jonathan, is it Jonathan Carl? I can't remember. Jonathan asks a foreign leader whether Trump's wall policy is agreeable. What a disgusting reporter. Abi, who I think is the same Abi who calls in, writes, Steve, I tend to disagree with your assessment that President Trump could be charged. I think you're saying charged with obstruction of justice. It's Comey's word versus Trump's, and I believe Trump I believe Trump when he said no today. He never asked Comey to stop the investigation. So where would the charge come from? Don't we all realize that Comey is a fired, disgruntled employee? And who will believe him when there's no way anyone could ascertain that the memo was written? It's Comey's word versus Trump's. Comey cannot be believed. Thanks, Steve Avi. So Avi, I understand your point, and I think I think there's something to your point, definitely. Your point is like, look, isn't this just he said versus he said, what President Trump said happened in the meeting versus what Comey said happened in the meeting? So I understand that. Now, what I think could happen, though, is let's say James Comey wrote a memo up right after the meeting, and he showed that memo immediately after the meeting to a couple people in the FBI. And you have, say, 3 people from the FBI testify, yes, he showed me that memo right after the meeting, and yes, that's what he told me. Now, they could all be telling a lie, or Comey could have written up a false memo and showed it to them, and they really are saying, well, he showed me this memo and they told me this. But I do think it's at least possible if Comey says this is what happened, and there's a note he wrote out right after, and there's a bunch of witnesses that said, here's what he told us right after. A special prosecutor might say that's enough for us to charge President Trump. He might not be convicted, but plenty of times people are charged with things that they deny. So, denying you did something will not prevent you always from being charged with it. It may help you not be convicted of it, but plenty of times people are convicted of things that they deny as well. So I'm not saying President Trump is lying here, and I'm not saying James Comey is lying or telling the truth. All I'm saying is Okay, so sorry we had a little technical difficulty, but Jake fixed it. Thank you, Jake. So all I'm saying is that just because President Trump denies it doesn't guarantee he won't be either charged with something by the special prosecutor or that he might be ultimately impeached. So we'll have to see what happens. But I appreciate your point of view, Abi, and maybe the special prosecutor and people in Congress will take President Trump at his word. Okay, we only have a couple more minutes, so I just want to get to a couple more emails here. Carl Peterson writes in, the reporter had a chance to reflect on the Colombian president, but instead chose to attack. Then President Trump took over and Santos became a bystander. Thank you, mainstream media, you miserable filth. No need to mention how much I appreciate the man of hat. RSBN all the way. Thanks, Carl, for your message. Greg says, YouTube ad revenue. I'd like to know more about this because on the one hand, it would seem the epitome of a greedy corporation. It's not as if Google, YouTube, and Eric Schmidt aren't making money. I'm beginning to rethink the conservative principle of capitalism and these near trillion-dollar companies. The Justice Department should begin looking into antitrust violations in these companies. So, in terms of, I will say this. So there is a bit of a difficulty here. If you're a provider, I think this is what you might be talking about, Greg. So YouTube does kind of have a bit of a monopoly on the live streaming world. So if you're like a content creator who wants to go online and monetize, YouTube's really where it's at because Facebook basically doesn't let you monetize, as far as I'm aware, doesn't let you monetize ads at all. And there's no other place with a big audience. So you're kind of forced to go on YouTube, and YouTube pays a certain ad rate, and these days the ad rates they're paying are not much to content creators. But there's nowhere else to say like if there was YouTube and like ShmooTube, and YouTube offered you 3 cents for every ad that got run on your network. ShmooTube could say, maybe if we offer 4 cents for every ad that runs on a show, creators will give us their stuff and not give it to YouTube. But there's no ShmooTube, there's just YouTube. So YouTube can kind of charge whatever they want, can pay the creators whatever they want. Now, there is a motivation for YouTube to pay the creators a fair amount because if they don't pay the creators enough, creators might not create for them. But at the same time, I think competition is good, and it is this kind of weird world we're in right now where there's like one place content creators can go and have their ads monetized and reach a large audience, and that's YouTube. So if there was only one TV channel, ad rates would probably be a lot different, and so so I mean, I think one of anything is not necessarily good for people who work with the company at hand. But I can't speak to exactly what YouTube charges. For all I know, they lose money on this, and they try to pay creators a good amount to get more videos up on their site. So I don't have inside information on YouTube. I'm just saying it is a bit of an issue because we look right now. YouTube ad payments have gone way down for the same number of views over the last few months. But when we look around, there's nowhere else for us really to go as an alternative if to do something like we do on YouTube. So it's a bit problematic that there's only one place, but that's the state of things right now. And somebody might argue, well, it's good for you content creators that there's just YouTube because YouTube reaches such a big audience. And if there were more than one YouTube, your view count wouldn't be so high. I don't know, but a lot we could talk about there, but I appreciate the message, Greg. Jake, we have to go soon, correct? Yes, okay. So let me read like one or two more messages, and that's all we have time for. Mike from Indiana says, Steve, the alleged memo was post-meeting draft. Also, General Flynn had already been cleared by the FBI. So you're the second person who's written in that General Flynn had been cleared by the FBI. I have not seen this anywhere. I'd like to see a link to this because I don't recall this happening. And as far as I'm aware, they're still investigating General Flynn. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm not remembering, but I don't remember him ever being cleared by the FBI of anything. Little breaking news, by the way, seeing that a soldier and policeman have been stabbed in a Milan, Italy train station. But we'll keep an eye on that when we get off the air. And okay, I think we have to get off now. Sorry. And one last comment. Eric S. Crocker says Trump should be going on the offense and start moving the fake narrative of the mainstream media. And Grant says, why was Cernovich kicked off RSBN? This will be our last question. Why was Cernovich? Jake, was he? I think he just chose to not do his show for the time being on RSBN. He had a bunch of other stuff going on. Jake, am I wrong about this?
Yeah, sorry about that.
Somebody asked about Cernovich and saying why was Cernovich kicked off RSBN? I don't recall us ever kicking him off RSBN.
No, he certainly was not kicked off. As a matter of fact, his schedule, it was right about the time that the mainstream media had started covering a lot of his, his articles and things, and he had released some of that. What do you want to call it? He had some of those leaks and things that he had released.
And he was on 60 Minutes, Jake, too.
Correct. So he grew a very prominent status very quickly. In his scheduling, and also having time for his family and everything, we totally understood. He was definitely not kicked off of the network by any means. As a matter of fact, we can still contact Mike at any time, and we have a few times. We're still good with him, and we support him. He supports us, so everything's good there. So he was not kicked off RSBN. For the record.
No way! Yes, no way, that did not happen.
Well, what they might be referring to maybe is that, because we've had to put a halt on original programming for now. Maybe that somehow got mixed into the loop or something. But we had already mutually agreed on him leaving before that. So
yes. Thank you, Jake. So all right, we're gonna wrap it up here for today. See, now it's a little later in the day, so it looks like it could be like really sunset behind us. Anyways, hope you enjoyed the broadcast today. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for sending all your comments and questions. Much appreciated. Thank you to Jake for producing today, Jake Seals. Thank you to the moderators for moderating the chat room. Follow Right Side on Twitter at RSB Network. Follow me at Lookner at LOOKNER. Follow Jacob Seals at Jacob RSBN Music. Jacob, where can they get your Right Side music if they want to buy it and hear it whenever they want?
But nobody wants to buy it.
What?
No, I'm kidding. It's rsbnmusic.bandcamp.com. And also, I'd just like to say real quick, rest in peace, Chris Cornell. Big loss for me today. So just throwing that out there.
Yes, very sad. Please, to get notified about Right Side videos in the future, subscribe to us on YouTube and click the notifications bell, and that will allow you to get notifications of all our videos. And finally, also, thank you again for that donation. Who gave it to us, Jake? Who was the one who sent that donation? Tuesday's Gone. Appreciate it. If you'd like to help us stay on the air, because we rely on viewer support to stay on the air, and you'd like to help us cover more events like this, feel free to donate, because your donations are what allows us to stay on the air. You can donate by going to rsbn.tv/donate, rsbn.tv/donate, or you can click on the $sign at the bottom of the YouTube chat. Also, just a little heads up, thanks to your support, not only are we on the air, but I am now I have the green screen set up in my apartment that we're working on. If you were watching the office cam today, you might have seen me trying to steam the wrinkles out of it so that the green screen will work properly. But I'm going to try to maybe do a couple late night live streams in the future, because I know there are a number of you who like when we at Right Side do late night live streams, so I'll give you a heads up on that. For heads up on that, make sure you're subscribed to you're following us on Twitter at RSB Network. But for now, enjoy your day. Have a great day. We will be back. If there's press briefing tomorrow, we'll carry it. If there's video from this upcoming President Trump trip that we can bring to you, we're going to bring it to you. And we will be back on the air if there's any breaking news. But for now, have a great day, and thank you for joining us.